Welcome back to the workshop, Richard Woodworking. Very recently I had done a video about a plywood stool that I had made, this one right here, based on some very simple plans. And it got me thinking that, well, there's some other things that I had made out of plywood, or almost entirely plywood, and that are these two totes. I made these two totes for use at work out of either scrap or material I had purchased, and for using tools as well as for other items. And I'll go into that next. As I had mentioned in some of my other videos, when I am not working in the Richard Woodworking shop, I am a conservator by trade, a museum conservator, working primarily with furniture and objects, but also some other materials as well. In addition to that kind of work, I also help with exhibit setup or fabricating boxes or all kinds of different things. And so one of the tools that I use is a glue gun. This is not the small craft glue guns that you see at a hobby store, but this is more of the more industrial sized glue gun made by 3M or other companies. Usually they make it for making, for assembling large cardboard boxes or even plywood pallets or pallet boxes, things like that. It's a much sturdier glue. Anyway, I built this tote first. This was built in 2016 from scrap plywood that would have been thrown out otherwise. And what it does is, on this larger well, I keep two different glue guns. Each glue gun takes a different kind of cartridge. It's either a long stick or a short stick. And so I have two of them, and they go in here. And then on the reverse, I have two different wells. This is for the long sticks over here and the short sticks over here. With a carrying handle in the middle, I'm able to take it wherever I need to use it. I use it both in my conservation lab, but also in exhibit areas. And because it has to be used anywhere on any kind of any kind of floor surface, whether that be wood or sort of gallery flooring or whatever, I have attached these foam blocks to the bottom with the same glue that is carried in it. In fact, you can see some of that glue on this board. This board was repurposed from another project where it had been glued at one point. In fact, it may be that I had put a piece of foam on the entire bottom and decided to then just take that off and just use the floor. That was a long time ago. So it's a basic little box, but you could make something like this for use with tools or anything else, gardening. This is made from 1-inch plywood, one inch plywood sheet. It is attached with screws. This is probably number 8, I would say 1 inch and a half screws. I've used a lot because I want to make sure it stays together. I'm not, as you've seen on this channel before, I'm not making stuff to go into an art gallery or for show. I make stuff to be practical. And it certainly does what I want it to do. If you were to make something like this is a pretty simple design. This is something I came up with pretty easily. I was inspired by some pictures in a woodworking book specifically about toolboxes. Some of you may own it, and you may know what I'm talking about. If not, there might be a picture of it here. So, construction notes, this is pretty much as 1-inch plywood sheet. You have a board here and here on either side, and then attached sort of a butt joint, one on either side here, with one in the middle, connecting at the middle. So it's a sort of a 3 to 2. And then this piece in the side, this is just glued into place. It is not secured here. It is secured on the other side, though. It is, yeah, you can see there's 2 screws in there, so it is attached to the handle section. And of course, there is a bottom piece. Very simple design. You can easily make this if you want a simple. Now, this is not as elegant as some of the totes out there, but it is very sturdy. So if you have something heavy, power tools, if you want to use sort of one of those orbital multi-tools that could stick in something like this, sanders, drills. A lot of people use things like this for drills. You put your bits in one pocket and you put your drill in the other, the charger. I mean, there's plenty of room for all kinds of things in here. So let your imagination sort of take you where it needs to. Gardening could be used for gardening. I mean, the uses are endless on what you can use something like this for. And that's how I use it, but it's certainly something that you can use as well and easily build. Some of you may remember a video I did a little while ago about my tool tote, the one I built at home. This was for bringing tools out to the garage workshop for the Dutch chest to ease the weight of the Dutch chest, bringing that out into the garage. It can also be used for other things as well. So I built this first, and then I made this. This was made, this is plywood that I purchased with my own money. Then I created this with no real plans, just my own plans, because it was made to be a furniture conservation tool tote for furniture conservation supplies, but I built it based on my needs. And because you just can't buy stuff like this, you really have to make your own in order to have what you need. So it is made of 1/2-inch plywood that is joined together with screws. These are probably number 8 2-inch deck screws, and then I shellacked it as well. Or it's probably polyurethane. Put a coat of polyurethane on it because in case it got wet, and some of the stuff I do, it might get wet. So, plus I work with solvents and chemicals, and so I didn't want to get that damaged any more than it otherwise would have. Put together, we do have some hinges. I have a clothes hanging rack from a closet type thing on top, acting as the handle. And turn it around, we have a special feature here. Talk about that in a second. And then, just like the other tote, there is ethafoam feet. I'll go into that in a minute. So go through just quick how it's used. I have a large well right in the middle. This large well is specifically for a hot pot. Hot pot that is used for melting high glue in water that is then applied for furniture repairs. This is used because it is reversible, easily reversible. And as I say to people who ask, conservation is primarily reversible or retreatable. And so we use materials that are reversible by future conservators in case they need to take it apart or they want to reveal some of the work that we have done. So this top area holds the hot pot and the cord and the cover for that, and sometimes a brush. These other compartments I use for holding furniture wax, rags. If I've got solvents with me, like mineral spirits or alcohol or anything like that, I'll put those in here. Keeps them completely upright when they're when they're transported. Putting those things inside of bags, they squirt on their own or they get tipped over. It just doesn't work, and this keeps them upright. And I like that about that. And just about anything else can be put up there as well. I will also attach clamps, quick clamps or something like that. If I've got a treatment I'm going to do and I know I need a clamp, I can put and this would be either a 6 or a 12-inch. This is not the huge 4-foot bar clamps or something. Those you have to handle by hand, but smaller clamps can be put up here, and so that's very helpful for some of the work that I do. some of the additional features, just like on the other tote, the bottom features the Ethafoam blocks that are glued onto the bottom. That allows this to be used on any flooring that I encounter. That includes original hardwood floors, marble floors, gallery floors, fine, smooth gallery floors, as well as concrete, brick, stone. There's all kinds of floors that I might be setting this down on to work on a piece of furniture or something else. And so that allows for that. Another thing we have on the side, I did not put this on. This was put on by one of my volunteers. This is just a piece of pine wood with holes drilled, mortised out of it for holding Stanley bench chisels. Just a simple set of bench chisels for use here. One of the things I have to do out on site is make shims for balancing furniture. And so I have the materials and tools for doing that I keep in here, and part of that is chisels. And I have nicer chisels that I use for other uses, but I don't want them to be riding around on this thing. So again, these are just simple Stanley brand, or it could be any other brand, but just your basic bench chisels that you buy in a big box store. And it gives me a good, safe place to put them where they're not wiggling around. And that's a good idea for anyone who's interested in this sort of thing, that you can put that on the side. So, what's down here? As you see, we have stuff up here, and you hear something rocking around. So you're going to find out what that is pretty soon. One of the points of making this, and of course I did this on the other tote that I made. It's got a bottom layer with doors and drawers. In the same way, I wanted to do that on this piece. I wanted to have an area inside that would hold additional materials that didn't necessarily fit in the different nestled areas. So I do have to have locks on this, because otherwise the door will pop open. So I just opened those up, and this was originally going to be a drawer, but I decided I would get more use out of the space by making it open on all sides than putting a drawer in, because then I would lose some space, and you know how I am about losing space. So inside, this is a bench hook I made years ago somewhere else, not here. And then I have this little dividered box, and made at the same time as the tote, but this allows me to put some additional items in here. Things like syringes, pencils, different small tools for probing, or another good one is glue brushes. If you do any kind of glue up and you have brushes, you know, that can go in here. Spatulas, just a lot of little ins and outs that you want to have in here, but you don't want floating around inside. You just put it inside one of this. And this is made out of 1/4-inch plywood, just glued together and then attached to a 1/2-inch piece of plywood, same material this is made of. It's not polyurethane. I didn't put any finish on it because it stays inside and doesn't need that. Additionally, one additional feature of this is that using the bench hook, I mentioned just a little while ago about making shims. Of course, a bench hook can be used in a lot of different places. You can use it on the side of a bench. You could use it on the tread of stairs. Turn any staircase into a work surface just using this. And it can also be used right up here. And this is a good, let's see, good stable point. Once you find your sweet spot, this is a good stable place. And so I've been able to chisel, saw right here, sweep the stuff into the piece, so you're not getting it on the floor or places it doesn't belong, and that's worked out very well. additional items that I keep inside the well. I have a dovetail saw that I keep in the back. That's part of use for the shim making. In addition to the bench hook, you can lay a roll of tape on, like blue painter's tape or something like that. There's enough space in between here. You can add the shim package or just whatever else you want to use. And so overall, this is just a great little tote that can be used for all kinds of tools and supplies. Construction notes on this build. Again, I built this completely of my own design, based on the tool tote I had already made, as well as some other items I had seen in books on toolboxes. Again, it's 1/2-inch plywood attached. So you got a big piece here, big piece on the other end. You've got short end pieces. And of course they are attached directly to the bottom. So you've got them attached. They are attached to the bottom piece as well as this mid-level, which creates the floor for the top wells. Here you can see again that top well is held in as well as the bottom, and then we're also holding in the walls of each of the wells, of the spaces. The item that has been added later for the chisels, I believe it's glued on primarily, and then he may have also used a screw or two. He watches these videos and maybe he can comment on how he attached it. So, again, this is something that would be very interesting to make. Feel free to build this or make something like it if you're interested in this sort of thing. And the door, you just don't see this a lot. But again, I did this because I wanted lots of space in here. And I should note, I've seen a lot of other totes out there, totes that have drawers on either end. That's not original to me, and this is not original to me either. The point is that if you have a need and you can build it, you should do so. And you can find that there are plans out there, or you can just create your own and make something that is practical for you, that works for your workshop and for your woodworking. And that are my 2 plywood tool totes used for work.